My name is Tyler King, and this is Karen Maldonado, my co host. And we are Narcissists. I am Asking for a Friend podcast. And we just wanted to kind of go over some things in the second part of the series so that you can understand how you can heal, move forward, and really get your life back in order again after being in a toxic relationship. And one of the things where we left off, Karen, how do you trust your instincts and safely find love again after narcissistic abuse? And one of the things we had talked about was we should look at the word instinct, right? So the definition, instinct is an innate, typically fixed pattern of behavior to certain stimuli. Now I know that sounds like a lot of scientific jargon. So Karen, break that down to us so that we can
Right.
understand in simplest terms what that means.
Sure. And I'll use the, example of being in a narcissistic relationship. So, perhaps it's a child that was raised by a narcissistic parent and they suffered some narcissistic abuse themselves. And so now here they are, in an adult relationship, and there's more of that going on because of the choice that they made, that repetition compulsion coming back, right? And
Right.
so they have these automatic thoughts that
Mm.
are not healthy for them. And so one of those thoughts could be something simple like, I must deserve to be treated this way. I was treated this
Mm.
way as a child, so I think I just must deserve to be treated this way. And
Wow.
so that's a thought that, they need to get rid of that, because that's not, you have to reverse negative beliefs about yourself. And so in that case, that is a belief that they may have. And I can't be alone and single. They may have never actually been
Mhm.
alone. They may have been with their family of origin
Right.
under the control of the narcissist. And then they meet somebody that comes into their life that's very controlling. And again,
Mm.
they're attracted sometimes to the things that we're used to, right? So then they end up maybe, marrying this person, let's just say, and now that person continues to control. So they've never been alone and they're afraid to be alone. And so they may go from one abusive relationship to the next because now this underlying thought also, I shouldn't be alone, I can't be alone, I'd be too uncomfortable, I'd be lonely, just simple as
Right.
that. So they don't want to make a choice to just, get to know themselves better.
Well, how do you unlearn that? Because if that was embedded in them from childhood, from one controlling relationship with the parent or whoever the caregiver was, to now going into straight out of that home into a home with a narcissistic partner, how do you break away from that? Because that's the pattern it seems like they've learned all their life. Wouldn't that make someone really fearful, scared, or maybe a little apprehensive about even going to?
Right. Right, and if they were told that they'll never amount to anything, they're not good enough, they were told negative things about themselves, then that makes them even more fearful of being alone, because then it's like,
Mm.
I'm a mess. I'd never be able to take care of myself. I have to have somebody to take care of me. I have to have somebody control me because I obviously don't do a good job of it, right? So that's what they think, because that's what they were led to believe. They were groomed to think that way about themselves. And so now here they are with this attachment style. So we're going to get into talking a little bit about attachment styles.
Yeah.
So in the case with a narcissist, there's an insecure attachment style that the person that is accepting this abuse,
Right.
they don't feel good enough about themselves, and so they accept this. But then also, narcissists can have any of the attachment styles themselves. I see a lot of the dismissive attachment style,
Ah,
ambivalent. So they are, they can be very possessive, very
yeah.
demanding that the person, dresses a certain way and does a certain thing. But then if the person that's being controlled has any kind of thing to say about it, well, you're controlling me, you're doing this, then to punish that person, manipulate that person, get them back under their control, they'll mistreat them by dismissing them. They'll, and that
Mm.
may be, as far as intimacy goes, it could be, just what their relationship, is like, and them just deciding when there will be intimacy and when there won't, and using it to punish the person. And so there's these attachment styles that we all have, to have a healthy attachment style and have good self-esteem, you probably were brought up in a, less dysfunctional family situation. I would say probably in most families, there's some degree of dysfunctionality in it.
Of course.
No one's perfect, right? So there's no perfect parents, no perfect situation. But the idea to be able to gain self-awareness when you've been in these types of relationships, especially if you've done it over and over again, you're wondering what's wrong with me. Get the self-awareness, figure out what it is that you're afraid of. Are you afraid to be alone? Are you afraid that, being alone means that you won't survive? Or, what is the fear? And sometimes it takes going to talk to a professional in order to figure out those things. And, it's not always easy to process those types of deep situations that go on in people's lives by themselves. It's better to have somebody that knows a little bit about attachment styles and knows about automatic thoughts. I would say probably a CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy therapist. That would be a good one.
Right.
And you're going to be attracted to, a dysfunctional relationship if that's what you've been used to, unless you have I can say that there are some people that were raised in that and they know how to run from it. So that has become their instinct, but then they can also become very avoidant of people.
Right, because now you're running from everything.
Yeah.
That goes over into jobs, other relationships, friendships. You just kind of just running.
Yeah, you don't trust anybody because you've learned, can't trust the people you're supposed to be able to trust, so I'm avoiding it like the plague. I don't need a relationship. So, and there's, there sometimes is, good reason to do that if you keep seeing the red flags, making choices that are not gonna get you back in that situation, yeah. But you don't want to be without relationship, people need each other, right? So we're created to be in relationship, but you gotta find the healthy ones that are gonna be secure attachments.
And you really have to know the healthy difference between someone having an off day or a bad day, or maybe you just caught them, because that happens too, because we're human, right?
Exactly.
But there's also a difference if you've seen a repetitive behavior and this is a pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
And that's when like, oh yeah, that's when you got to run from that, because that's who they are and they're showing it to you.
Exactly. And so if you're in a relationship that the other person causes you a lot of anxiety, they're unpredictable, they're not honest, they lie, and then they come back and you figure out that they've lied. Narcissists don't have a problem lying if it's going to benefit.
Oh yeah, they're really good at it.
Yeah. So if there's a secondary gain, integrity goes out the window. So
yeah.
So they want to, make sure that they are benefiting, and if it's for their benefit, they're gonna do it. So
help our viewers to understand, because they may hear what you're saying about the dismissive and the ambivalence. So when they're in the household as a child or growing up, maybe an adolescent, what are some things that maybe someone looking back, what were the signs of that parent being maybe dismissive and ambivalent, and now in a relationship or in a romantic relationship, it's going to look possibly a little bit different?
For a kid that has a parent that doesn't show up for their games, doesn't go to their graduation, there's other things that are more important, and that can be in a family that's still intact, where the narcissist is still married to the parent. That can happen in that kind of situation, and it can also happen in a divorce. So, it's, the kid has to feel like my parent is aloof. My parent will come to my stuff if he doesn't have anything, or she doesn't have anything better to do.
Right. Like if they don't make one dance recital, one sporting event, or music or entertainment, whatever it is that child does, it's never of an importance, is what you're saying, to that narcissistic
Exactly.
parent. It,
Exactly.
they could have been even given the honor roll, and they're like, hey, we're having an award ceremony for people that were on honor roll, and they still won't, even
Exactly.
like that, probably won't show up because it doesn't
Right.
benefit them.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And so then this person, could become attracted to people that are aloof. And here we go back to that repetition
Mm.
compulsion idea. I want to recreate this relationship. I've got this aloof partner, but my hope is that this is gonna end with a happier ending, because then all the lies I believed about myself. I'm not worthy of having somebody come to my graduation. I'm not worthwhile, nothing I can do will work, and so now if I'm with this person and then he starts to act like I'm important and things I do are important, then
Right.
that dismiss all those negative thoughts I've had about myself, because this
Mm.
person has disproved it. So it's a hard and difficult thing when a person is with a narcissist after they've had a parent because was a narcissist, because now it's just like, oh, this is re-emphasizing the fact that I'm not worth it.
Wow, that you're not worthy. So, like when you're in a romantic relationship, it could maybe translate to maybe you had being recognized by your employer, or you maybe graduated from college, or you had some type of recognition for maybe a work program, or something where you're being recognized and awarded, and they can kind of do the same type of behavior, just not show up. It's not important. They have other things to do.
Or even like a parent where maybe the child will go to the parent and ask, questions, sit down and have chat, because the kid was over at their friend's house and noticed how that mom or dad sat with the kid and talked, and that looked really nice. I'm gonna try that with my own parent. They go home and they try that, and their parents like, go find something to do. That's dismissive, or get out of my hair, just hurtful. And now it's like, what's wrong with me? That kid's parent does that, and there must be something wrong with me. So it's these automatic thoughts that become their way of thinking about themselves, because
Yeah.
they're made to feel that way.
It becomes their reality because they've kind of faced it and that's all they knew for so long. So it's almost like, how do you think differently unless you're going
Yes.
through therapy or someone exposes it and shows it to you? And then in a romantic relationship, you're with someone, you're with your spouse, like what would, like for example, a husband do to a wife, or a wife would do to a husband in a situation that they would just be very dismissive or withholding, and just kind of like,
Yes. Well, the idea is to be in control of everything. And so if they know that their goal is to create drama and tears,
mhm.
but if they can create upset and they know that they've upset their partner, they get that catharsis from that. They feel like a relief when they know that they've been able to do that. They feel like they've done what they need to do to make themselves feel good about themselves. If they see that their partner is interested in intimacy, that'll be the time when they reject them. That'll be the time when they feel like they're not worthy of intimacy. You gained weight, I think we'll wait, or you have a dad bod, I don't think so. Things will be said that are hurtful.
Oh yeah.
The idea is to scar the person, to hurt them so that they don't feel a sense of self-esteem about themselves. And oftentimes you'll see that, a narcissist will tear down another person, they'll begin to believe it, and they look like they're hurting, they look like they're not taking care of themselves because they feel like they're not worthy of taking care of themselves.
So I wonder if it's because of the constant negative messaging that they've heard for so long. Like you said, they almost start to believe it, and they start to adopt the same things that they're saying. So like if they are poking at their weight, and they may have only gained 5 pounds or something, but then now it may spiral into them overeating, or them like
Because then they go maybe, right, then they might go into a comfort thing. Now they're just looking to be comforted because they're hurting. So
right.
they'll, break out that gallon of ice cream and just,
Yeah.
eat, because now they're hurt. I feel like no matter what I do, I go to the gym, I do this, I do that, and
Right.
still he or she doesn't think I look good. There's definitely that aspect of it where being in control of the intimacy part of the relationship is there. Is it in every relationship? That's the thing about narcissism. I've said it before, that it's like 31 flavors.
Right.
Every narcissist can look different. There could be one that just wants control and says, we're having intimacy every day.
Right.
So, you know, and so it just depends, but yeah, it can definitely affect people in a lot of different ways where it hurts them and creates these new negative thinking patterns that they didn't have before.
Okay. Now we have that pretty much attachment style where they're kind of dismissive and ambivalent. Now I know there probably has to be other attachment styles and other things that narcissists do. So just enlighten us.
If you are feeling very anxious all the time because of this relationship, things that have been done, things that they continue to do, then you know, you may be in denial about the mistreatment that you're getting. People may have come to you and said, I think that he's a narcissist, I think she's a narcissist, that they're so mean to you, or whatever. It's people from the outside are noticing.
Yes.
You may be in denial, you may be in the habit of protecting, because it's like when you grew up, there was the elephant in the room.
Right.
Parent, and you couldn't talk about it. You tried maybe a couple of times and you got
Oh
good
yeah.
learned, you just don't talk about that.
Yes, but
So
don't
now
talk
you've
to.
learned how to be in denial about it. And so now, as an adult in this relationship, you've been groomed, so you know how to be in denial about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're noticing it, you're sad, you are anxious,
Yes.
but you still are in denial. Well, what will happen to you if you don't start accepting what's truly happening is you'll
Right.
end up having panic attacks. You'll have terrible anxiety. Your health, physical health is going to suffer because
Wow.
you have anxiety, you have adrenaline flowing through your system all the time. And because of that, it's now, you're not fighting off a tiger, you're not running from the tiger. It's this fight flight thing that's always going on in your body. So now you're needing to do something because it's going into your organs if it's not being used up, that adrenaline. So better, if you're fully, always anxious, you better start being somebody that goes and exercises, because exercise is what your body is gonna need in order to alleviate some of that built up adrenaline that continuously. So that's just, one part of that, but I will cover the other,
Oh
attachment.
yes, please.
Yeah, the avoidant attachment style, which I talked about a little bit there.
Yes. Yes.
And which is also dismissive. And then disordered, I talked a little bit on a clip recently, and I think we did mention it a little bit about parentification, which is basically when a child is treated by the narcissistic parent like they are supposed to be the source of comfort to the parent, not vice versa, the way a normal situation would be. So the child starts to feel like they're responsible to fix the parent's feeling and help the parent, to feel, like whatever been going wrong in the house, that it's not the parent's fault, it's the other parent's fault, or it's something else, or the kid themselves, definitely narcissists are demanding of apologies.
Of course.
So you better apologize, and very, very few times will they apologize because they don't think that they're wrong. So that disordered attachment style, they give inconsistent responses to different things. There's that one's a little
So
bit.
like, give an example of like, they'll say one thing about, is it pertaining to any particular topic? Is it because they're trying to get out of something, or they're trying to hide something? Like, when do you start to see that rear its ugly head?
You'll see it different, like they may treat different, one child as the golden child and then another child as the, Cinderella
Like
syndrome.
the black sheep of the family.
Yeah,
and
And so they're inconsistent in their responses to different people. They're apprehensive about making commitments to people. They expect a lot but don't really want to give a lot in return. So this is like a narcissist now. Disordered attachment styles in people that aren't narcissistic, that might look different. So this is where we're talking about how it plays out with narcissism.
Oh yeah.
And then I think we already talked about the secure attachment style. That's when where self-esteem is healthy and you know, it's much better. And so I would also say that with regard to the one with the panic attacks,
Mm-hmm.
that one, you have to remember that what the mind won't accept, the body will. So if you're not accepting the fact that you're in a situation or a relationship where you're being mistreated,
Mm-hmm.
your mind won't accept it, you're in denial, but your body will accept it. I want to go back to that point because that's
Yes.
important in this.
That's kind of heavy there because I wonder if it went over some people's heads because that's something. So what you're saying is what the mind, say it one more time.
What the mind won't accept,
What the mind won't accept. Uh-huh.
the body will.
So does that end up leading to, and I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything by no means, but like, could it lead to like stress, like high blood pressure, like maybe ulcers,
Oh,
like
absolutely, all those. Yeah, it could lead to all those things. Yeah.
all those things, headaches, migraines, and just different things that's affecting your body. You just start having pain in certain areas and you don't know why, even maybe even down joints, who knows,
Yeah.
could be affected by this.
Yeah, you have a buildup of cortisol in your body, there's a stress hormone, and a lot of things happen, and you know, each body is different, how they're going to respond, right? But
Right.
it will take a toll if it's not dealt with. And how do you deal with it? You deal with it, you go for therapy to figure out what it is that you're, you know, denying here. And
Right.
it just takes another person speaking sense into your life so that you can make some decisions that will be healthy for yourself.
Well, that's a word in and of itself because sometimes people could have physical ailments, things that's going on, and maybe the real thing that needs to be dealt with is what's going on in their mind, what's going on emotionally, what's going on mentally in their world, in their life. And if they fix that, I'm not saying this is all cure all thing, but you got to be able to see that there's a connection there, and maybe just like taking the medicine for the physical thing, you may need to go to the mental, emotional, even spiritual part of it.
Right. You're talking about the root causes, get the root causes.
Root causes to the root, right.
Yes, yeah. So if it started with what's going on and it's exacerbating everything, let's figure out what's going on. Let's see if there's a way to fix it. How do you do that? Well, you could go to couples counseling if it's a marriage that we're talking about. And if it's, if it's a parent and a child, then go to counseling for that.
Yeah, family therapy, exactly.
Family therapy, yeah. You know, and then if it's a situation where it's a friendship, then you might need to just decide this friendship is so unhealthy for me, I can't do it anymore.
Ooh, and that's a tough one when you have a friend because we all want friends, and that kind of goes back to the loneliness thing. We all want to have a friend, and maybe even some of us feel some loyalty to some friends that we've had since childhood or since high school or whatever it is. But you have to realize that once that relationship starts to turn toxic, or you start seeing those signs and those patterns of behavior, if you have that conversation and it's still not being fixed and you see the same thing, yeah, you're right. It may be a healthy separation, parting of ways, boundaries, even.
Yes.
You may need to put in place.
Yes. I know some people that have made a choice to just, break all ties because
yes.
And if they're put through this thing where there's this big, narcissist like drama, they create a big drama thing. They're both, maybe crying, they're both upset, and then they, give it a little time, and then they're like, let's forget about what just happened, let's just go out tonight and, what's going on in town or whatever. And then they go out and then they're back to being friends again for a couple of weeks maybe, and then something else dramatic happens. So they, that person's drawn, maybe to that type of personality, but they need to start making decisions for themselves to find healthier
Healthier relationships. And there's nothing wrong with, letting go of, because what I'm feeling right now is some people feel like out of loyalty, they need to stay friends with someone just because there's been history of longevity. And I want to free you of that. If that's you, I want to free you of that you don't have to stay there just because there's been some type of long history. If it's hurting you now, if it's not healthy for you now, then it may not be worth continuing on, and causing harm to yourself.
Right, right, and that's a good point, Tyler, because a lot of people will say, well, I invested so much time in this relationship, I've known this person since I'm in grade school or whatever they'll say. And I'll say, okay, so you've invested a lot of time, but now, okay, so let's say that you keep the relationship another 5 years, now you've invested more time of drama.
Right.
So do you want to do that with your life, or do you want to say, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make a choice here because I can. I have control. That's the other thing. A lot of
Yes.
times the narcissist in the relationship has always been the one in control.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's your turn to be in control and say, no, I can make a choice that's good for me and healthy for me. I'm gonna be done. I'm gonna be done with this relationship because I move on to healthy relationships. And then in the meantime, so let's just say this is a person that's fearful of being alone. Maybe they don't have a mate, maybe this is just a friend. And so now it's like, okay, so what do I do with my life? Do I have, I'm not really good at making new friends. I'm a little shy, or whatever the reason might be. And so, what do I do? Well, there's plenty of things that you can do. You can pick up a new hobby.
Yes.
So, maybe it's an art class. So you go to this art class, there's gonna be other people at this art class. And so maybe afterwards, people are gonna go out together and, get something to eat or something. And so you make time for yourself now. It's self-care. You hear about that phrase a lot, right? Self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Find people that are gonna be healthy people to be around.
That is amazing. I love that. Finding people with common interests, and you can choose and pick and decide how far you want to go in that relationship while you're establishing those new relationships over a common interest. So I do like that. I love that. And just so that we just want to kind of get wrapped up with everything here, since we kind of went through all of the attachment styles. And listeners, I just want to make sure that you give this great gift to yourself and give yourself that secure attachment relationships. You need to make sure Karen went over it very well. Look for those type of relationships, and then also, and even in the relationships currently now and the ones in the future, look for the red flags. Make sure that if you see those things, so that repetitive behavior, those things that just constantly keep coming up, it's not sitting right in your spirit. You kind of always feel anxious. You feel a certain way around this person. Make sure you're being mindful to that and listening to that. That's like when we're exercising, we say, listen to your body. Do the same thing with people in relationships. Listen to what your body's saying, because it is definitely telling you, what it's telling you the right thing. And then also, don't jump into the wrong relationship out of loneliness. Just wrapping it up, like you said perfectly in the end. Don't let loneliness be the thing that has you attached to a toxic or narcissistic type of person. Because there are people out there that are better for you, that will be more than willing to be glad to be in a healthy and emotionally stable type of relationship, where it's a healthy give and take, it's a mutual friendship, there's a mutual respect and loving kindness towards one another. And we just want to have that kind of godly Christian type of relationships, because isn't that what God would want for us? I mean, that's his best, right?
No, I would say always be ready to forgive the person that has hurt you. And if it's somebody that is a true narcissist, it would be hard for you to try to tell them, well, these are the things that you do, and this is what I need for you to change in order for us to remain friends or to remain in this relationship. And
Right.
If there's a willingness and you actually do see change, then wonderful. But if it goes on and on and on, and you've dealt with this for years, then I would say, it may be time for you to just decide, you know what, I'm ready to move on.
That's right. Do yourself a favor and put yourself first in those situations, and take care of your own peace. and peace of mind, right? Well, thank you for listening and joining us today. Narcissist, I'm asking for a friend, and we'll see you on the next podcast.